10 flashpoints are colliding across the globe, from collapsed cities to secret war rooms, from crumbling alliances to a heat wave that is quietly killing tens of thousands. Stay with us. This is tonight's roundup. Before we jump into today's news, hit that subscribe button right now. In just a few minutes, we'll bring you the biggest stories from around the world, so you stay informed without wasting hours scrolling through the news. One short video, all the headlines that matter. Subscribe now and stay one step ahead. Washington and Tehran head back to the table. For the first time since the strike that killed Iran's supreme leader, American and Iranian officials are preparing to sit face to face. Sources confirm the meeting will take place only after mourning rites for the slain leader conclude, with funeral observances running from July 4th through July 9th. Behind closed doors in Doha, mediators from Qatar and Pakistan have already held separate rounds of talks with both delegations, working to salvage a memorandum quietly signed between Tehran and Washington. But Iran is not backing down. A senior deputy at Iran's foreign ministry declared that lasting security in the Middle East is impossible unless the United States withdraws from the region entirely and respects the sovereignty of every nation there. One wrong move at this table, and the fragile truce could collapse before it even begins. The U.S. tells Poland Russia may strike from within. Washington has sent Warsaw an urgent message. Russia may be preparing a provocation on Polish soil. According to reporting cited by The Telegraph, American intelligence believes Moscow is weighing missile and drone strikes on Poland's critical infrastructure, alongside scenarios involving Russian forces crossing directly into NATO territory. Leaked details point to drone attacks on power stations, staged air raids designed to force Poland into activating air defenses, and a hybrid incursion along the border, one that could be disguised as a GPS malfunction or a rescue mission for a downed helicopter. The endgame isn't victory on the battlefield, sources say. It's political pressure aimed at forcing Poland into negotiations with Moscow and choking off Western support for Ukraine. Polish officials say the threat is being taken with deadly seriousness, and military exercises are underway to signal any NATO response would be devastating. Trump's intelligence. Shakeup turns explosive. A political earthquake is rocking America's intelligence community tonight. Dozens of career intelligence officials began receiving termination notices this week, ordered by Acting Director of National Intelligence Bill Pulte, a man with zero background in intelligence work. Officials say those purged are being branded deep state operatives, accused of withholding complete intelligence assessments from leadership. This follows Pulte's removal last month of 6 political appointees who served under his predecessor. Former officials are sounding the alarm, comparing it to taking over a hospital and firing dozens of surgeons in days. Pulte, in his mid-30s, previously ran a housing agency with no national security background and used that post to refer several of the president's political rivals for prosecution, referrals that went nowhere in court. He could remain in this powerful acting role for well over 200 days, with no permanent successor confirmed. Critics warn the fallout could take decades to fully surface, as experienced analysts walk out the door and foreign adversaries circle to recruit disillusioned officers left behind. Netanyahu's shock move. Israel prepares to cut its ties to U.S. aid. In a stunning declaration, Israel's prime minister says his country wants out of American financial assistance, and the process could begin this very year. Netanyahu bluntly labeled Washington's support social aid, insisting Israel's economy has grown strong enough to stand on its own. Over the next decade, he says, Israel will gradually walk away from the roughly $3.8 billion it receives annually from the United States. The announcement lands amid rising friction between Jerusalem and Washington over Iran policy and Israel's ongoing military operation in Lebanon, raising urgent questions about just how strained the U.S.-Israel relationship has become behind the scenes. A new visa crackdown targets Russians. The European Commission is moving to slam the door on certain Russian travelers, even as it publicly denies rumors of a total visa ban. Responding directly to Russian state media, Brussels insisted claims of a blanket ban are false, but confirmed that tighter, targeted visa restrictions are already being drafted, specifically aimed at categories tied to security risks, including military personnel. The measures are being folded into the EU's 21st sanctions package, and officials have already signaled that by autumn, visa rules will tighten further for citizens of Russia, Belarus, and Iran alike. Taiwan on red alert, the island's biggest ever crisis drill. Taiwan is bracing for what could be its darkest hour. Just as the island claws back from a devastating supercyclone, it now faces a chilling new threat: a possible Chinese invasion, following expansionist rhetoric from Xi Jinping during a major Communist Party anniversary speech. In response, Taiwan launched its largest ever closed-door crisis simulation, testing President Lai Ching-te's government under fire. More than 370 officials, military officers, and emergency responders converged for 2 grueling days in Nantou County. The nightmare scenario: a Chinese naval blockade striking the exact same moment as a magnitude 6.8 earthquake, killing dozens and crippling infrastructure, while Beijing allegedly unleashes cyber attacks, disinformation, hijacked broadcasts, and sabotage before a full-scale assault. One scene even simulated a drone strike obliterating the emergency response headquarters, with 75 personnel declared missing and officials forced into a backup bunker. And before the drill even ended, China carried out a real combat readiness patrol, deploying warships and 22 military aircraft, including nuclear-capable H-6 bombers, circling the island. Ukraine's drone lifeline falls drastically short. Kyiv was promised a war-changing infusion of drone funding from Brussels, but the first payment has left officials stunned. The European Commission's long-anticipated drone assistance package, part of a broader €90 billion support program, was expected to deliver roughly €6 billion upfront. Instead, Ukraine received only about €4 billion. Officials blame a last-minute overhaul of the financial oversight mechanisms meant to track how the funds are spent, with the remainder promised at a later date. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen insists the money is earmarked for advanced unmanned drone technology. But for a country fighting for survival, every delayed euro could cost lives on the front line. Germany digs in Berlin, vows to fight for more Ukraine funding at NATO summit. As NATO leaders prepare to gather in Ankara on July 7th and 8th, Germany's chancellor is signaling a fight is coming. Friedrich Merz says Berlin will push hard for fresh, binding financial commitments from allies to keep Ukraine's war effort alive, declaring that Germany's own support will not weaken. He voiced hope that Moscow will finally read the writing on the wall and agree to ceasefire talks. But behind the scenes, the alliance is fractured. Member states have failed to lock in a long-term military aid commitment for Ukraine covering 2027, even though €70 billion has already been approved for 2026. Italy, notably, is refusing to commit to next year's funding, threatening to blow a hole in NATO's united front just as the summit begins. Europe is burning a heatwave death toll too horrifying to ignore. A silent killer is sweeping across Europe, and a bombshell new study says the death toll is far worse than admitted. Researcher Christopher Callahan of Indiana University estimates nearly 2,400 heat-related deaths across Europe in a single week, June 22nd to 28th, as temperatures soared past 35 degrees Celsius for more than two-thirds of the continent's population. Belgium recorded a 39% spike in deaths. France saw a 30% surge. Reuters separately reports at least 3,700 deaths in France, Belgium, and the Netherlands from the same event. Numbers officials warn could still climb. Only 1 in 5 European homes has air conditioning, versus 9 in 10 in the U.S., leaving millions exposed. Over the past 4 years, heat has claimed more than 200,000 lives across the continent. Now wildfires are tearing through Spain and France, forcing roughly 3,000 evacuations in southern France as flames race through dry vegetation. Even Munich has declared a water emergency, shutting off fountains and rationing irrigation. Scientists warn Europe is heating up faster than nearly anywhere else on Earth, buried alive inside the engineering failure that leveled Venezuela. New details are emerging about why so many buildings in Venezuela crumbled into deadly rubble on June 24th. And the answers are terrifying. A magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck near Caracas's coastline, followed just 39 seconds later by an even more powerful magnitude 7.5 quake on a neighboring fault, giving residents on lower floors mere seconds to flee, while those higher up or deeper inside had almost no chance. Venezuela's parliamentary speaker confirmed 2,295 deaths and more than 11,000 injuries, with a 7-day national mourning declared. But the U.S. Geological Survey warns the true toll could soar as high as 30,000 to 50,000, with tens of thousands still missing. Engineers say the coastal town of La Guaira suffered catastrophic damage because it sits atop roughly 500 feet of loose, water-deposited sediment that behaves like a bowl of jelly under seismic stress, violently amplifying the shaking. Multiple towers suffered total pancake-style collapse, a hallmark of inadequate shear wall reinforcement and the destructive twisting forces known as the P-delta effect. Venezuela didn't take earthquake-resistant codes seriously until the mid-1980s, meaning older structures were likely most vulnerable. The ground shook for 2 to 3 agonizing minutes. It isn't the region's first brush with disaster. In 1999, catastrophic rainfall triggered debris flows that buried this same coastline under more than 10 feet of sediment. That's tonight's roundup of 10 stories shaping our world. Stay with us for continuing coverage as these situations develop.